Do you currently work at a different company? Can we borrow talent? And there's some very interesting borrowing examples happening right now. I was talking to Rob again at McDonald's, and in Germany, this has been written up in a lot of publications already. They lent a number of their employees to one of the largest supermarkets in Germany. We're seeing that in the U.S. We're seeing these larger organizations that are hiring massive amounts of people, like a Walmart or Amazon or CVS, or the list goes on and on. They are specifically working with companies who are laying off workers, particularly in the hospitality industry, and doing mass enrollments of workers coming on board. Maybe permanently. A lot of times, it's temporary.
Yeah,
and I think this is opening up organizations' eyes on how we look at talent going forward, and how we can possibly work with each other to share that talent going forward. And so I back to your original question, I think on the gig worker side, I think, the government recognizes how critical gig workers are to the economy. And I think most organizations do as well. And these are all learnings that we've had, I think, from the 2008 recession. We barely hung on, in that recession, and, kept some very important institutions alive. And today we're acting much more quickly and decisively, I think, to make sure that the economy is not going to, suffer too greatly from all this.
You were a longtime leader in the learning space and the technology-enabled learning space. This has been a passion of yours for a long time. And a lot of the innovation that happened and the infrastructure that was built and the technology that was experimented with is now coming full force into play. For example, I'm thinking about MOOCs. I'm thinking about the digital collaboration software, all the kind of stuff that leading edge companies were experimenting with is now kind of mainstream. Any predictions? What do you think is going to happen around the world of learning for and at work? What are your thoughts on that?
Similar to what we said earlier, I do think a lot of executives' eyes are being open to what's possible. Whereas before, it might have been hard to get engagement. Now you've got it because you've got, essentially a captive audience in a lot of organizations. We have, just in our own research over the last few weeks, we have seen a hit to productivity in the workforce. We asked, hundreds of companies back in mid-February, has there been any impact to productivity because of coronavirus? And over half companies said no, there's really been no impact whatsoever. Well, today that's down to 2% of companies who say no impact.
Right.
In fact, 95% of companies say there has been some impact. And so I think, companies are recognizing that, and they're trying to make sure that they can utilize some of these platforms to improve productivity going forward. The number of people working in the organization remotely today has skyrocketed, of course. And, I started out talking to you about user-generated content. I personally feel like we're going to see more of that happening going forward. We just did a study this week on user-generated content and tried to ascertain, are companies using more of it or less of it? What do they expect to happen going forward? It's a little bit of a mixed bag. I think one of the problems is the organizations don't have the tools for employees to create content and, a central repository for them to place that content. So I think we'll see more of a focus on that going forward. But all the tools that we've been talking about, an LXP, utilizing curated content that's out, from MOOCs or other areas, we'll see much more of an increase in that going forward and acceptance of it going forward.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I'm seeing a lot of mentoring coming to play as well. I spoke to someone at General Mills, who obviously a critical part of the food supply chain. They've got an initiative to help people dust off skills that they've had in the past. So a little bit about kind of labor mobility. Like I know how to run this part of the operation, or I'm familiar with the operation of this machine because I did it at some point in my past. and I'm going to refresh those skills. I'm going to be ready to step in if there are sort of gaps needed as well. So there's amazing agility going on, I think, as well.
I agree. And, we're seeing it in the medical profession too, just the call of some of the, recently retired medical professionals to come back in and help. And I think some of the video mentoring solutions that are out there, the peer-to-peer coaching solutions that are online, I think we'll see a resurgence and more interest in that for that very reason that you just stated, Chris.
I wondered what kind of motivated or inspired you to, spend the majority of your professional career around learning and the future of work.
I love it. From my perspective, I just really feel like we're impacting so many iconic and important organizations around the world. And, personally, and this goes for my entire team in the company, we get to work with some of the most talented human capital professionals that exist on the planet. And what's been fun, I think, over the last few years, and we're going to see more of this going forward, while, we were kind of the redheaded stepchild in the past, where people didn't necessarily pay attention to what we were doing in the learning community or just broader in HR. I think today more and more organizations are recognizing how critical the function is to being successful and executing on your strategy. And so that's been fun to see going forward and is just continuing to get more and more recognition and rise in importance overall. And that's what gets me up in the morning for sure.
Cool. Well, Kevin, I mean, the work that you do to sort of unpick the trends and to bash heads together and create community and convene and research is amazing. I thank you for that work. I thank your team for that work. I hope you and everybody stay healthy. Where can people find out about this amazing resource in terms of the employer resource that you have around coronavirus? And how can people connect with you?
So right off our website, it'll be very obvious where the Coronavirus Employer Resource Center is, but just go to i4cp.com. So it's the number 4, C as in Charlie, P as in Paul.com. And people can connect with me at kevin.oakes@i4cp.com. Happy to answer any emails that people want to send to me.
Great. Kevin, thanks so much for your time and thanks for the work of you and your team. And we'll send people over there to join in the conversation.
Well, thanks for you doing this, Chris. And I hope you and your family stay healthy, by the way.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Likewise. Back at you. Thanks as always for listening to this episode of Learning is the New Working. Please rate us on your favorite podcast platform, share us with your friends and community, or drop us a note at www.learningisthenewworking.org, where you can find a back catalogue of all our episodes and learn more and get resources from the amazing people that we've been lucky enough to feature across our 6 thematic seasons. Please, please, please stay well, stay home, but stay connected, and always stay learning. Thanks.